an eccentric weapon that baffled the US military when it was spotted by satellite in the 1960s. An unfinished, suspiciously designed aircraft docked at a submarine shipyard. The big question at the White House was, what are the crazy Soviets made in this area? A Cold War-era nightmare whose blueprints China is looking for in the Soviet arms graveyard to invade Taiwan. What is the story of this weapon that Beijing is rebuilding, and why does Trump fear its movement towards Taiwan? Many secrets and details we reveal to you, dear viewer, about the Caspian monster. Stay tuned. A surprise is the strangest revealed by the American New York Times, citing a secret document from the Federal Security Bureau, which says, shortly after the Russian rush to the Ukraine war, officials from Chinese defense companies and institutes linked to Chinese intelligence began to flow to Russia. The document states that, besides the use of drones in the war in Ukraine, one of the strangest things Beijing is interested in is searching for Russian military pilots and aerodynamicists who worked on the Ekranoplan Plan, a decommissioned hovercraft warship intended for naval blitzkrieg attacks. The Ekranoplan Plan could be the perfect weapon for occupying Taiwan. Beijing is prioritizing the recruitment of former and current employees of aircraft factories and research institutes who are dissatisfied with the Ekranoplan program's closure by the Russian Ministry of Defense, or who are experiencing financial difficulties. It is unclear if these recruitment efforts are limited to employing Russian specialists in Chinese projects, or if they also involve recruiting spies. The document also reveals that Russia is concerned about how China perceives the war in Ukraine and is attempting to provide Beijing spies with positive information about Russian operations. Ekranoplan returns from the death. This terrifying Soviet project is a hybrid between a ship and an airplane. It moves over the water without touching it, making it one of the most striking flying machines ever built. Propelled by 8 NK-87 turbofans, can reach a top speed of 550 km per hour while gliding just 5 to 15 meters above the water's surface, with a range of 1,500 km. Its ability to fly so close to the water's surface enables it to avoid naval mines and enemy torpedoes, and makes it difficult to detect with radar. With a crew of 3 people, it can sail continuously for 5 days without refueling and carry 28 officers and soldiers with all their weapons. The Ekranoplan is 92 meters long, has a wingspan of 38 meters, and weighs over 544,000 kilograms, with an empty weight of 240,000 kilograms. It carries 6 Mosquet anti-ship missile launchers, which are capable of sinking US aircraft carriers, and is armed with a 23mm Pty Ltd twin anti-aircraft gun. It was primarily designed as an anti-ship and anti-submarine aircraft to provide rapid logistical support to ground forces in the Arctic Ocean, North America, and South America. These regions are separated from Russian territory or naval bases by large bodies of water. The dark side of Caspian monster. Despite its innovative design, the Ekranoplan aircraft had some shortcomings during its service. The crew noticed, although the thrust of its engines and the design of its wings allowed it to fly low and undetected by radar, its short wings prevented it from flying higher than 5 to 10 feet above the water. If the altitude exceeded this limit, the aircraft was at risk of losing control and collapsing. Consequently, the last Lund-class version could only be used when the Caspian Sea was calm. In stormy weather, it had to be stored ashore. In addition to the danger of flying in turbulent seas, a second weakness was that the Lunds were designed to move using the ground effect principle and were not able to fly as fully as conventional aircraft, even with their powerful engines. The requirement of good weather conditions for its use restricted the times and flight locations where the Lund could operate successfully. Operational history. In 1967, a spy satellite captured an odd image over the Soviet Union that left Americans perplexed. The image was of an old submarine construction site with a strange, suspiciously large, unfinished airplane. They wondered why an unfinished airplane was in a submarine yard and what the Soviets were up to. The Americans called this suspicious aircraft the Caspian Monster, or the Duck. The Caspian Monster first entered service in 1966 and was tested continuously by the Soviet Navy until it crashed in the Caspian Sea in 1980. In the late 1980s, the Soviet Ministry of Defense decided to use an Ikra-Noben Lund-class aircraft as a search and rescue aircraft. They named it Spasatel, meaning savior, to reflect its intended role. However, the authorities then decided to convert it into a floating field hospital. While most of the Spasatel's hull was completed in the late 1980s, the project was abruptly suspended and ultimately halted in 1991 following the dissolution of the Soviet Union. The end of the Cold War prompted both sides to reduce their military stockpiles, and the haphazard state of the Russian economy made allocating funds for huge, expensive projects impossible. The almost complete Spasatel was withdrawn to an industrial port on the Volga River, where it remains to this day. Periodically, discussions have taken place in government and private circles about whether Spasatel should be terminated, but no plans have come to fruition so far. One of the most famous ekranoplan models is the Loon, the largest ever built and used by the Soviet Navy in the Caspian Sea. The ekranoplan program was halted when the Soviet Union collapsed in the early 1990s. It was never used in direct combat. The craft was towed to a naval base in Kaspiysk, Russia, where it was stripped of critical components and left unused for over 3 decades. Despite many calls for its preservation, the decommissioned ekranoplan began to rust due to its constant exposure to changing weather conditions. In July 2020, 3 tugs towed the ekranoplan across the Caspian Sea, flanked by 2 escort ships, to a coastal area near Russia's southernmost point, likely marking its final voyage. Ultimately, the Lun was a remarkable machine that marked a unique chapter in aviation history during an era of intense military competition between the Soviet Union and the United States. The science and capabilities that led to its operation were astounding. At the end of the video, dear viewer, do you think China will succeed in rebuilding the Caspian Monster to invade Taiwan? Let us know in the comments.